Hello, Accelerated Math 7-8 students. This is Module 14, and we are looking at Lesson 10. And as you already know, I ran out of room to write in my table of contents. So, the title for Lesson 10 is called A Critical Look at Proportional Relationships. The goal for today. Today we will review tables and graphs to determine how to write linear equations with two variables. The question that I want you to be thinking about is, what do you do with the extra information? And then the second question is, what are the parts of a linear equation? All right, so this is pretty much the lesson that bridges everything that we've been learning in Math 6 and Math 7 over into Math 8 so that we can make it all one connected topic of learning. And there are some things that we need to remember from when we were working in 6th and 7th grade math that will help us make that connection. So some things to remember is, here is a table that you guys are very familiar with working with. Ratio tables are a great way to organize information so that you can do something with it. So the specific topic that I want you to be thinking about, however, when we're working with the ratio table today, is we're going to be looking at distances and how to find them. And so what I need you guys to do is take a look at this ratio table, and we're talking about distance. So we have distance, and we have time, and then we have to figure out how we connect to those. So here's our time in hours, and so it says in 3 hours, you can travel 123 miles. In 6 hours, you can travel 246 miles. In 9 hours, you can travel 369 miles. In 12 hours, you can travel 492 miles. And then in how many hours can you travel Y miles? So our job in this table is we're trying to figure out what is the constant rate of change. Okay, what is the rate? What is the constant rate of change? What is the unit rate? And then we're going to figure out all of the ins and outs of that. So the first thing that I want you to be thinking about is, how do you determine the distance? So looking up here at the table, what do you think is the way that we determine the distance? In order to figure out distance, you have to take the amount of time traveled times the speed that you go, right? So you're comparing miles per hour. So we have miles per hour. And when we're talking about miles, we're actually talking about the speed. Okay? Because you have to go a certain speed to travel the actual miles, and you do it during time. And so we're taking the speed of the individual item for how long they travel, and that gives us the distance. So we're taking the rate of speed, okay, the rate of speed times the amount of time that we have, and that gives us the distance. So what would be the rate then that we're working with? If you said miles per hour, then you are correct, okay? And how many of you have ever heard of the thing, well, I'm on the freeway and I'm going 75 miles per hour? Well, that means that in every hour, they travel 75 miles. And so if you travel 75 miles in 1 hour, that must mean you're going 75 miles. That's how fast you're going. So the odometer in the car is, the little red line thing is all the way up to 75 for an entire hour. And by doing that, that allows you, over the course of an entire hour, 60 minutes, you travel 75 miles. So what you're wanting to figure out is, how much did you go in 1 minute? Okay, that's what I always do when I'm thinking about driving. And so if we're looking at this to figure out the unit rate, remember the unit rate is the number of miles. So if we're doing miles per hour, what you want to figure out is you want to figure out the number of miles in 1 hour, because that's what unit rate means. So you're determining the number of miles in 1 hour, okay? And so that's, again, this is all a review from what we learned in 6th and 7th grade. So if we go back up to this table, we can figure something out. Plug in your values. So again, to find the distance, you take the miles that you travel, okay, per the hours of driving. So you take the speed times however many miles or however many hours you did, and that will give you the distance. So you take the speed times the time, and that gives you the distance. Okay, so distance equals the speed times the time. Okay, so distance equals the speed times the time. Okay, so I want you to think about that. Okay, so now let's take our rate, and in our table we can use any one we want, right? Because we're trying to see if there's a proportional relationship. So it says the time is 3 hours, so we have to put that on the bottom. So 3 hours. And then the miles traveled was 123. So we have to be very, very diligent about keeping our labels so that we don't get confused. So then the next question is there a constant that we've got? So we've got to figure out what is the rate. What is the rate of change? What did we do to get from here? So that leads us into doing the unit rate. So let's go down to 1 hour. So in 1 hour, how many miles do you travel? So how did we get from 3 to 1? We divide by 3. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Divide by 3. So we're going to take 123, and we're going to divide it by 3. So that goes 4, 12, bring down your 3, 1. So that means that they're traveling what? 41 miles in 1 hour. That's really slow. In the car, that's really, really slow. 41 miles per hour. So for this specific scenario, we're traveling 41 miles per hour. Now we have to check and make sure that they all work. So if you're going to go 246 miles in 6 hours, how long would it take to do 1? So we divide by 6. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 6 goes in, so it worked. All right, so now we know that the unit rate or the unit rate of change is 41 miles in 1 hour. Okay, so now we have to figure out what it would be for y. So I want you to go way, 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 way back. Remember, this is the x and this is the y. How do you find unit rate? This is going way back. So how do you find unit rate? We said it a ton in class. I'll give you a hint. Something divided by something. Y divided by x. Do you remember that? Y divided by x. So to find unit rate, you take y divided by x. So this is the y because it's the miles divided by x, which is the time. So now what we have to do is we have to use what we learned about finding linear equations in disguise. Do you remember that? So we know that the unit rate is y divided by x, and we know that for this specific scenario, that equals 41 per 1, right? So if we use what we've learned in linear equations in disguise, your job is to get rid of the denominators. And some of you don't like that, but you have to remember this is what we do. So this is y being divided by x. So to get x out of the denominator, what do? We multiply it by x over 1. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now on this side, these two simplify to 1. So 1 times y, 1 times 1, y divided by 1 leaves us with just y. Okay? Equals, what you do to the one side, you have to do the other. So now let's do this side. 41 times x is 41x divided by 1, right? And then my next question is, do we really have to divide or times everything by 1? Well, we can. So 1 times 1, that's good. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. So 1 times y is y. So we're still left with y equals 41 times x. Okay, read this. Can you convert the rate into an equation? Did you just create an equation? Oh, you can't see, sorry. Now, did you just create an equation by using all of those steps that we've been learning? Now you know why. Mrs. Nelson is not a mean teacher who's trying to make you crazy. She's trying to help you see something. So, this was our original rate, right? 41 miles in 1 hour is the same as y divided by x. Then you have to get rid of the denominator, so we multiply both sides by x, and then we multiply both sides by 1, and when we were finished, we were left with y equals 41x. So did we just take this entire process and turn it into an equation? Yes. Okay, now look up here. Today we will review tables and graphs to determine how to write linear equations with two variables. Wait a minute. Are there two variables in here? Ta-da! A y and an x. So two variables creating one equation. So you just did it. Everybody see that? Pretty awesome. All right, linear equations with two variables have to identify each variable and what its job is. So let's go. What did we do? The variable in this scenario is the time. And then the variable in this scenario is the distance. Now, wait a minute. We just said, if you go back up here for just a minute, that we have distance equals the speed times the time. Now, wait a minute. Come down here. Distance equals the speed times time. Hey, we just did it. These two are exactly the same. Do you see it? This one's in words. This one's in symbols. Okay, so we did exactly what we were supposed to. So let's go down here to figuring out what generic meaning is. The variable, every time you use the variable x, that's going to be your rate of change. Your rate of change, what you multiply by that, okay? And the y is the outcome of the change, all right? So this one right here, the x is the value that you're multiplying the rate of change by. So you're going to have x times whatever your unit rate is. So this is your unit rate always. Okay, so x times your unit rate, and then you get the y. So we have x times the unit rate equals the y. Okay, so you need to remember that. The rate of change is the rule from the table. The rule from the table is the unit rate. Okay, so rate of change and unit rate are exactly the same things. Okay, and then what is the linear equation from the table above? You just figured it out. What is the linear equation from the table above? Y equals, it was right there, 41 miles per hour times any hour you give us. Okay? Does that make sense to you? All right. So hopefully you're being able to see this and this is starting to make sense. Okay? Got it? So now let's go back up to the question. What do you do with the extra information? Do we have any extra information in this specific problem? The answer to that is no. But when we get into class, you will see that we sometimes have extra information, and I will go over what that is once we get to do some practice in class. What are the parts of a linear equation? Let's talk about it again. This right here is the outcome, right? This right here is the unit rate, or the rate of change, in parentheses, rate of change, okay? And this x is the independent variable, whatever you're starting with. So independent variable in this specific circumstance, it's time, and time is always the independent, no matter what you're doing. Okay? How are you feeling about this? Okay? I don't want you to be overwhelmed because that was a lot of information, but it's good information, and it's a great way to make the bridge into our next lesson, and our next lesson is called constant rate, which I will go over with you in the next video. All right, my darlings, today we will review tables and graphs. You didn't get to see a graph, but you'll see one in class. Today we will review tables and graphs to determine how to write linear equations with two variables. And the most important thing that I can tell you to always set up your rate set up your rate equal to your unit rate so that you can write your equation. Okay? And that's all I have for you today. Talk to you soon. Bye.